Okay, so before we get started again, once you're moving with stills, you want to do a few things that you can actually, that'll help you out in the long run if you're working with a lot of stills. Like, for example, if you're just making a slideshow, which actually I need to do that for tonight's JCOM banquet. But you want to come into your preferences. You can go into the general preferences, and you'll notice a few things pop up. You'll notice that the still image duration. So you can set the duration of all your stills to be a certain amount of time. Right now it's set for 5 seconds because we're working in a 30 frame per second timeline. So if we wanted 3 seconds, we could change that to 90, which is what I think I'm going to do. You can also do a few other things here. You can click on default scale to frame size. So depending on what size your picture is, and when you bring it in, it's going to automatically adjust to the 1080 timeline, which is not necessarily a good thing, especially if you want to move on photos. So with that being said, why would you want, say, a larger picture on a 1080, let's say a 5,000 pixel picture on a 1080 pixel timeline? Let's say you wanted to move on this. Exactly. Okay, you have more resolution to work with. So if you want to zoom in on it, you're not going to lose data or resolution. If it's the exact same size as the timeline, or it's a 1080 picture, or even smaller, if you zoom in on it, you're going to notice you're going to zoom in on those pixels, and it's not going to be as detailed. So I tend to not want to click that because I take larger pictures, and if I want to zoom in on a picture, I want to be able to do that. So I'm going to change my still image duration to 3 seconds. It's up to you guys. You can do that however you want, and then you can import whatever you want here. The nice thing about you can import your content the exact same way, but if you do it through the media browser, there's a nice thing that you can do. If we get into some stuff here, I can look into my JCOM pictures, and I can actually, if you'll notice here, you can see files of type, and you can do all supported files, or you can move in and you can actually change it to, we can just look at JPEG files. We can add things to it. Let's say it's a PNG file, multiple file types selected. You could actually figure out exactly what you want, and I'm going to find pretty much anything with a photo on there. I'll do JPEG, TIFF, and PNG. So if I move into JCOM photos here, you'll notice that the only thing I'm going to see are JPEGs, TIFFs, and PNGs. Fortunately, I organize my stuff before it comes in, but if you're not organized, this is a great way to do that. So yeah, and you can actually, there's a few other things you can do here. And so you can import it that way. And for the sake of this, I'm actually going to do, I think I want to find some other pictures here. We'll work on winter pics. I'll just import a few of these here. What does that even say on that? Marked. So these are some good photos that I want to work with here. So I know that they're decent. So I'll just select all those, and then I'll right click and I'll import these in. Okay, so now if we come back into here, you'll notice that we have some pictures here that we can use here. So we'll go ahead and open this guy up here, and right now it's a 3-second clip, which is great. Like I say, I can bring this down onto the timeline. I can bring that over, and you'll notice that I'm on a 1080 timeline. And if I bring this picture up here, this is the actual size of the picture, but this is what my timeline is showing here. So you can do a few things here. And then, thank you. I can right click on this and I can scale to the frame size just for this specific photo, and you'll see what it does here. So it scales it down to fit within this. This does a few things, however. If you scale it to fit into this. I'm going to make this a bit bigger so you guys can get a look at this. If I try to actually zoom in on this photo, I'll show you what happens here. I'm going to open up my, I'll go ahead and double click on that and open the effect controls, and I'll click on my motion here. Now that it's scaled to fit, I can't go, it's basically at 100% right now, and I can't really go over 100. It's going to prevent me from going over 100. So I scaled that down and I downgraded the quality of the picture. So that's not necessarily a good thing here. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, if I zoom in on this and I'm actually going to grab this guy here and I move this down, you'll notice that that's pixelated there, correct? I'm going to go ahead and turn off the scale to frame size. You'll notice that I can zoom in much more. You notice that my 100% is much it's much bigger there, but if I go in it further, I'm not as pixelated. I maintain the quality. So it's not necessarily a good idea to scale to fit. If you're not going to do any move on the still image, scale to fit, and you can just show the image there. But for the most part, you're not going to get, if you're going to be moving on the images, you want to be able to zoom in on them and tell the people what you're talking about there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to delete this off of this timeline here, and we'll just do this again. So I'll drag this down and in. You'll notice if we come over the playhead, we have this picture here. If I come up into my effect controls, I'll double click on this image here. I'll come into the effect controls. I will open the motion tab. If I want this to fit and I want to do it my own way, I can click on this wireframe here, and you'll notice that this is the actual size of the image here on this wireframe. And I can actually scale this down, and I can make this, what you see is what you get type movements. You notice it changes numbers here, it changes the scale there, so I can move this in like so. So I can make that to fit here and set that up just the way I like it. And then that way I'm not degrading the image. The image is still at its full quality, and I can actually move it exactly how I want. And you can do a few different things like that. It's grabbing and repositioning. The next thing we want to talk about is actually moving on a still image. So let's say I want to move this. I want to make this, put some motion on this piece of photo, and I want to make it into a movie. So the first thing that you need to do, and 3 seconds, quite honestly, isn't going to be long enough for a movement on this. So I'm going to make this a bit longer. I'm going to fit that so it fits into my timeline here. And you'll notice what is happening on my timeline is also happening up here. If I move this here, it's going to move this down here as well. And this is just a way to it's a way to show you that that you can put keyframes up here. And I'll show you exactly how to do that. When moving on a still, you want to maintain the same principles that you've used whenever you move on video. So when you're moving on a still, when you're moving video, let's say you're doing a pan or you're doing a zoom, what are the rules of that? Yes, so you want to start on a static and end on a static. Exactly, that's perfect. So you don't want to start with motion and end on motion. You want to establish that it's a still, take your move, stop, and then you have some time there. So we'll move into this about a second here, and this is where we want this photo to start. We want to start wide, and then I'm going to move in closer, let's say on the girls. And my voiceover for this would be Sadie and Hannah are Lauren's girls, and then we would zoom in on the girls. You want to enhance. If you're going to talk about if we were doing a voiceover here as well. And so with that being said, you need to create keyframes. The first thing that you need to do is we're gonna move the scale of this. We're obviously gonna make this bigger. And so you'll notice that once we hit that stopwatch there, I'll even open these up a bit here for you. We have a keyframe here that comes in on this entire size of this photo here. And we're also going to be moving the position. So it's not only going to be getting bigger, we're also going to be moving to move down to where Sadie and Hannah are. So we're going to also want to put a keyframe for the position. And so we want it to move for about, let's say, 10 seconds here. And we can actually adjust the time of that, and we'll bring this down just a bit. But oops, just open that back up. We have our keyframe set, but now we want to go ahead and move these guys, and we need to go ahead and get our wireframe. You can actually move it by like mathematically moving numbers around and getting exactly where you want it, or you can go, my preferred method is just to move it around. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this right to where the girls are, and then I'm also going to make this bigger. And so you'll notice that not only am I making it bigger, and not only are the keyframes changing here, you have all sorts of things changing here, but you have this little line here showing the path movement of the picture there. And so now that that's done, I can move to the beginning of the clip, and you'll notice as this playhead moves, you'll notice that everything else will kind of move with it. And I'm going to go ahead and make this, I'm going to fit this so you can actually see how this is going to move. And when we press play, it's going to play for a second, and you can get some nice motion on that there. And then it should, once we get to that point, it'll stop, and then you can cut to a different shot there. So you'd be talking about them, describing them, doing some things along those lines there. This just takes practice. It's really easy to do, but now that you guys will have this video here, and you guys can come and look at this whenever you want and kind of get an idea of what you want to do for moves on stills. You can actually make a really good story with just pictures, and you can just kind of let the keyframing tell the story and along those lines there. And so, yes. Any questions on keyframing or moving on stills or importing stills or anything along those lines? Okay, the next thing that you probably are going to want to know is if you want to get a still photo off of your video. It's a really easy thing to do. So we'll need to import some video here. File, import. Let's go find some video here. Let's do Salt Lake News Stories. We've got a fire here. This is good. We'll find some video files here of some fire. Let's go take a look at what we've got here. This was Brian shot this. This looks like a good one. We'll get some because you get some drama here. Yeah, you were on this, Mackenzie. You got this guy looking off in the distance, showing shoot as the fire is going. So we'll import this video. We'll go ahead and put that down on the timeline. And so we've got this video here, and we've got this motion here. Really easy thing to do to capture a still shot here is you just park it on the exact moment in time that you want. And let's get him. We'll get him as we'll get him on a move here, right there. You get some depth and perspective on that. The only thing you have to do is you can do it in your source, or you can do it in your program. And it's really easy. You have this button here, export frame, or you can export frame depending on what you're selected on there. And so all you have to do is click on that, and you can name it whatever you want. We'll name this Hiram Fire. You can change the format to a JPEG, PNG, whatever. We'll just keep it as JPEG. And you'll notice it'll save out to my desktop here, which is great. And now that technically that's saved out, we'll go ahead and hide this up. And now we have Hiram Fire JPEG here. And we have a still photo of that exact shot that we pulled for some video. And so you can do a lot of things with that if that's what you want to do. Then the only thing you have to do is just re-import that. It's going to save it to a certain file. You can save it to your media, the actual folder that you're working in, and then just re-import that into Adobe Premiere there. So any questions on capturing images from Premiere? Okay. That's pretty much it for the lecture today. Do you guys, like I said, do you guys have any questions at all on that? Okay. Should be recorded. I'll go ahead and stop this.